I'm gonna let folks in. And
Great.
okay, all right. Welcome,
Welcome.
welcome. Hello. Hi. Look at these lovely faces. Hmm. All right. And I know there's going to be more joining us here. So we're just going to hang tight here for a minute as folks join us for this online book launch, our first ever. So excited to have you all here. I'm Carolyn. We've got Jenny and Sarah. And we're excited to spend an hour with you all. We are recording this so we can share it later with anyone who wishes to experience this after the fact. We're honored for you to be present now. Hmm. It's really lovely to see your faces. Hmm. Okay. There's probably going to be some more folks rolling in, but we are going to start. So welcome, welcome, welcome. My name's Carolyn. I'm the development director at Springhouse. And I'm going to open our time by reading our Springhouse identity statement. The Springhouse community envisions a world where all life thrives. We believe that taking care of life, one person at a time, can eventually bring the larger culture we live in back to health. Springhouse practices and shares the sourced design principles: take care of vulnerability, cultivate personhood, build beloved community, learn from the earth, and love and serve others. We practice the design to create a culture that takes care of life through education, media, and a global network. Springhouse is supported by the contributions of its community members and those who support our shared vision. No one is turned away from any of our offerings due to a lack of funds. The Springhouse campus is located in the Appalachian Mountains of Southwest Virginia on unceded land originally stewarded by the Yesa, also known as the Tutelo Saponi and Occaneechi peoples. We honor the Monacan Nation who hold federal recognition and are present in this region today. We acknowledge our inheritance in this place at this time, both how the wisdom we teach has been passed down through many teachers and traditions before us, and how we benefit today from the legacies of oppression. To move toward a world where all life thrives, we commit to facing the injustices of the dominant culture as an ongoing part of our curriculum. We commit to core values of connection, trust, creativity, resiliency, integrity, and individuality as values in action that take care of life in ourselves and in each other and the earth. We practice source design in our community and gratefully share these principles with others who seek to take care of life in our world. Thank you. I invite you just where you are in this moment. Just as you have heard these words, let them wash over you and through you, and maybe take a moment to close your eyes and take a breath. Maybe take a look around the space that you're in your own home, or wherever you are. And often, just in spaces like this, it's helpful. I find for me to like touch, like ground myself in my body. Sometimes just bringing touch to know that like I'm here in a physical way and we're also here in the spiritual way. So now I'm going to invite you to just take a moment and look at the screen and really look at these faces who are here for this event. And if we see names on the screen, we can just honor and we know there's a body there. Thank you. I'm going to read a poem and we're going to just do a brief check-in in the chat. And I know this poem um, has great meaning for what we're going to be learning tonight about this book, Consider the Source, written by Jenny. So as you're in your space, in your place, wherever you are in the world, I invite you again to just come back to your body, to your home, and feel your breath and hear these words from Rumi. Everything you see has its roots in the unseen world. The forms may change, yet the essence remains the same. Every wondrous sight will vanish, every sweet word will fade, but do not be disheartened. The source they come from is eternal, growing, branching out, giving new life and new joy. Why do you weep? That source is within you, and this whole world is springing up from it. The source is full, its waters are ever flowing. Do not grieve, drink your fill. Don't think it will ever run dry. This is the endless ocean. I'm going to read it one more time. The source. Everything you see has its roots in the unseen world. The forms may change, yet the essence remains the same. Every wondrous sight will vanish. Every sweet word will fade. But do not be disheartened. The source they come from is eternal, growing, branching out, giving new life and new joy. Why do you weep? That source is within you, and this whole world is springing up from it. The source is full, its waters are ever flowing. Do not grieve, drink your fill. Don't think it will ever run dry. This is the endless ocean, by Rumi. So just to welcome in your presence to this space, we'd love to invite a check-in in the chat with one word of why, maybe a word or phrase of why you're here tonight. And if you wish, where you're dialing in from, just why you're here and where you're zooming in from. Loving all the support. Mm. Folks in Colorado, Floyd, our neighbors in Radford. So grateful. Thank you all for being here. Great. Okay, well, y'all have heard a lot from me, and you're going to hear just a tad bit more because I'm going to do a little bio introduction of Jenny Finn here. Jenny is Springhouse's executive director, and she has been designing structures that foster vitality in people, communities, and organizations for almost 30 years. Jenny holds a PhD in sustainability education and is co-founder of Springhouse. Her research, mentoring, and teaching invites people to strengthen the relationship they have with themselves in order to serve the world with greater clarity, courage, compassion, and creativity. Her work has taken many forms, including nonprofit leadership, trauma and hospice care, chaplaincy, clinical private practice, community building through the expressive arts, and education. Jenny lives on a farm in the Blue Ridge Mountains, where she is right now, with her husband Andy, who's on the call, and their many furry friends, and is the mother of Andrew and Lizzie. She loves riding the Peloton bike, swimming, I'm going to add running, spending time with families and friends, and watching a good British mystery. It's a little about Jenny. Okay, I'm not even seeing the screen. I'm coming back and seeing Jenny laughing her head off. It's great. Okay, so I'm going to just introduce Sarah Piper, and then we're going to dive in here with these lovely humans. So, Sarah Piper Pollock. Sarah is the director of Sourced Press and is a mentor, student, facilitator, and a dancer. She's been serving nonprofits for many years with a focus on rites of passage for international youth, dance, youth mentorship, and environmental restoration and conservation. Sarah is a certified forest yoga teacher, a Soma Source practitioner, and holds a bachelor's degree in global environmental studies from Clark University. As a current graduate student in transformative learning communities at Antioch University, Sarah is deeply committed to understanding the consciousness and development of individuals, especially adolescents. Originally from Colorado, Sarah has a deep appreciation for the natural world as a healing modality and will often be found walking the woods, cold plunging in swimming holes, and drawing the roots of trees. I think there's a lot more we could add to that now. So we're gonna jump in with some questions. And the first one's for Jenny Finn. Jenny, why did you write this book?
Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh, it's really good to see you all. And to those who are watching this later, thank you for being here and watching this. I wrote this book because I have a story to tell. That's really why I wrote this book. I have a story to tell, and I personally think it's extraordinary. I think it's extraordinary that as a teenager, I was very, very lost. I was knee-deep in addiction to alcohol, to my boyfriend, and to my friends, and getting my friends to like me. It was well beyond anything that an adolescent would be doing. They all three were addictions for me, and it's a miracle that I survived some of that. When I was 20, I was at a fraternity party, and my story is in the book. It starts the book. And I had a wake-up call where I was very, very drunk and about to do something very, very bad to someone. And I heard within me to put the drinks down, that I would never drink again. And since then, it's been, I guess, 32 years. I have not had a drink since then. And I continued to follow that voice until this point that I'm sitting here right now. It's the source that Rumi spoke of in the poem that also opens the book. That poem is very important to me because it really describes my relationship with something I will never understand, but that there is nothing I trust more than that, the relationship I have with whatever woke me up that day. I've been in service to that ineffable, unexplainable experience for a long time and have experienced such a beautiful life because of it. And many of you have been, well, my mom is here who gave me life. And many of you I know. And it's just, this book is my story of that experience, but then the extraordinary experience of being in a community called Springhouse for 10 years that is oriented around that same source. So I've gotten to be on this planet and have that wake up call in relationship with something much larger than me. And then also to experience that in community over time, in a place. I feel very, very fortunate to have that experience, and I want to tell that story. So this book came, we were on a all school trip. We go on these trips with Springhouse. We were in Birmingham, Alabama. It was a very enlightening, painful trip where we had just gone to the Legacy Museum in Montgomery. And I woke up, I was awakened from that same voice inside of me at about 4 a.m. when I was on that trip, and I started writing there. And the guidance I got about this book is to make it not more than 20 pages. And that was 8 by 11 pages I was writing on. So it is almost 50 pages, but it's still a very small book, a 5 by 7 book. And the other guidance I got was to write it for a teenager. Write it so a teenager could understand it, which was good guidance for me because I can get very flourishy and I don't know what the other word is, but it was good guidance for me. Short and for teenagers. And that it needed to be about source design. Source design is basically a design that emerged from my own personal experience, my experience of working many years with organizations to support them in fostering vitality in their places, and the experience of Springhouse. So the book is really those stories, and then also about the design itself. And that's why I wrote this book, mostly because I have a story to tell, and it's a vulnerable thing to do, and I must be ready to do it. Thanks for the question, and thanks for being here, everybody.
Mm-hmm. So you were inspired to write this book, and then like, how did it come from, I'm writing this book, to we're going to publish it by hand? Like, how'd that happen?
Well, that was also interesting because I submitted a book proposal that wasn't very good at all. It was just not very good, to a publishing company, and was working on submitting another to them. And then I felt like how this book is made and how it goes out is just as important as the writing of it. So I didn't know what that exactly meant, but anyone who knows me on this call knows that doesn't really stop me from proceeding. I had no idea how to start a school or open a dance studio or now open a print shop. It doesn't stop me if I don't know here. It's more of a calling that I follow. And then I ask a bunch of people who do know what they're doing to help me. Or people who also don't know what they're doing, like Sarah Pollock with the print shop, and we do it together. So it was very important to me I didn't really want to mass produce it. And I definitely did not want to produce it online. Like, I did not want it to be available just as a download that you click. This book is beautiful, and I want Sarah to talk about that. Sarah and I have known each other for 13 years now. We met on Semester at Sea dancing, and Sarah is a brilliant gifted, enchanted, beautiful artist. And she's in that print shop day and night, hand printing the illustrations for this book, the title page, hand making the book itself. It is a work of art. There will be other copies, I'm sure, that go out that maybe, you know, are different from this first edition, but the ones that are being made right now are made on beautiful paper, donated from Press of the Night Owl. Amazing name, Press of the Night Owl. And Sarah is doing these illustrations. So it felt really important for me to have the book be beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great segue over to Sarah. I'm curious too of like how it came to be that you are the illustrator, right? Like Jenny started writing this book, got clear on crafting it to where a teenager could understand it, right? Like simple and clear message. So how did it become that you are the artist, like the bringing the illustrations and what's some of the inspiration behind the illustrations? What's inspired you?
Thanks, Carolyn. Hi, everyone. It's really nice to have this support. It feels really good to have friends and family be here. So let's see. Ireland. Jenny and I last summer went to Ireland, and we didn't really know why. It was kind of like, we're going for fun, but we knew kind of there was another reason behind it. And we ended up actually staying at a friend's house right next to a letterpress printing museum. And we would go every day to the press cafe. And we were in Dublin. And then we decided also to go to the Book of Kells Museum. And from there, something just started happening where we knew Jenny was writing a book. So we were talking about that. But then it kind of we started just talking about all the different roles of what it means to actually produce a book. You know, so the Book of Kells, they talk about those that write, but then also those that actually do the hand set calligraphy of the Book of Kells, and those that do these illuminated illustrations. And I don't think we knew at that point that I would be illustrating, but I think we did deep down, probably. And I can't tell you the series of events that kind of eventually brought it to be, but the illustrations are really a conversation with Jenny's words. So having, to know Jenny deeply, but then also to have a conversation with her words. I read over the book many times, and sometimes Jenny would also change it. And so then I would reread it, and it was great. It was like this process. We'd have this conversation back and forth. And I comprehend and I feel in shapes and colors and imagery. So when I read, I would jot down the images that came to me. And so then, I can't tell you how many different illustrations I sketched. I even carved quite a few. And then eventually 12 decided to make it into the book. They're really an echo and a conversation of Consider the Source in Jenny's story.
I love hearing that, just your process and how you are working with words and how imagery just moves through you, like shapes and just the process. And thank you for that. So you're publishing this book by hand. And I mean, you all didn't just like watch YouTube videos to figure this out, I'm guessing, right? Like, how have you both learned to use a press, or like, I don't even know. I've been to the shop once, if I'm honest, like I've just seen it once, but I don't even know the magic that's happening over there. I just hear about it. So I'd love to hear, like, how have you gotten in the last literally like 6 months or less to where you're publishing a book? Either one of you, just go for it.
I'll go for. So as Jenny mentioned, right, like a handmade book tells a story within a story, right? So you it tells the story of the maker. It tells the story of the environment. It tells the story of the donated paper, of the ink, of the materials. It's literally impressed, letterpress with care and attention. There was there's just so many things I can say about letterpress, so I'll try and keep it short. But it's rare these days, right? That gift is both to the maker of the book, but also to the reader. And it gives it the attention it deserves. And I think that's what Jenny was speaking to, where it's like to not mass produce this book, but to give it the attention and care that it deserves. So Jenny and I went to Sebastopol, California, to North Bay Letterpress Arts to do a week-long residency. And that was just kind of midway through our journey of learning, right? So there's been, as Jenny said, like, you don't know, you ask for help. And that's exactly what has happened. We've asked for help and we've gotten so much support, including going and staying. We flew out to the Bay Area. We stayed with Jeff, who's on the call. Thank you, Jeff. And we borrowed his car and went to this residency and learned from masters who gave us like really special attention. And so we actually ended up making a small book, our first small book there. And yeah, there's been a lot of learning along the way. I think this is the type of craft that you will never stop learning. I'm learning in the shop every day. How do you change the platen? Then I use YouTube, and my friend, Cheryl is helping too. So like, right, there's YouTube, there's calling upon help, there's doing it. We've gotten a lot of help and support along the way.
Awesome. Sounds like learning by doing. What about you, Jenny?
Can you all hear me? Okay, good. Yeah, I think what I'll just say about this is the book has a lot of soul. When you make something by hand and each one is cared for in this way, there's a lot of soul in it. And I think these days that's unfortunately hard to come by. And I had no idea how to do that. I knew that we were going to hand make it, but I didn't know how that was going to happen. And I'm just very, very grateful to Eric and to Brooke and to Tiana and the whole community in Sebastopol, which I randomly found through a blog on the internet, and they offered to teach us. And I'm really grateful for that, because we just would not be where we are. We also wouldn't be where we are without people donating and giving to us equipment. And so we have, the print shop is incredibly beautiful. Some of you on this call I haven't talked to in a while don't even know that we opened a print shop. This all just evolved 4 or 5 months ago. We were thinking about having someone else print it because we didn't know what we were doing. So all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, we're printing it, and here we have support, and here we have equipment, and here we go. And I can barely get out of that print shop. I'm there in the evenings with Sarah. I mean, we just, it's magic in there. It really is. It even smells like magic. When you walk in there, you can smell magic. That's my answer for now.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I'm curious if there's been, and this is going to be for both of you in your own area that you're working on this, birthing this book, if you will. Have there been any challenges or any areas that have been, a struggle in writing or publishing this book?
Jenny, why don't you start writing?
Okay, I'll
first.
start. I asked Carolyn before you all joined the call, what was challenging for me? I couldn't remember what was challenging. And because, it would be a kind of a typical thing to say the writing, right? The writing was challenging. And I mean, I was up most mornings at 4 a.m. I was awakened by candlelight. Here we are, just writing for 4 hours. That actually wasn't that hard. That was really life-giving for me. I think I know what's hard as I'm sitting here. And it goes back to the story I told you about the teenage years of Jenny. And I thought that to be successful, maybe some of you can relate who are here on this call or who are watching, to be successful meant more of whatever it was. For me, it was more friends, more popularity. We live in a larger global culture that says more is better. Bigger is better and more is better. And I think what's challenging for me is that, there won't be a ton of books that are, not when you're hand making them. It's not like there's going to be a ton of them to go around, or it's not a popularity contest. It's just not about that. And there's still a teenager in me that's like, but it is. How many, how can this be more and bigger and better? So I think for me, the challenge is, I know this because of Springhouse, that when you invest in one thing well and deeply, I know this because it's of my own life. When I invest in one thing deeply, just like a tree, it can grow so much higher and spread so many seeds around that I don't have to be more and better to be enough. And I think just like when I opened the dance studio, just like when I started Springhouse and now launching this book, there is, maybe you can relate, maybe I'm not alone on this. There's a part of me that's like, more people, more money, more that is better. And it's ingrained in me because I've grown up in this culture. And this book is teaching me something different. All of you know that I can move pretty fast and pretty intensely. A lot of you know that. And this has slowed me down. There's no intent with the letterpress. It takes you 3 hours to set one little thing. And then you make a mistake and you got 3 more hours to set the thing. It is a blessing for me to be in that print shop. It slows me down and helps me understand about depth more than more. And I think that probably, the writing of it wasn't as challenging. I mean, it wasn't easy to distill 30 years plus of my life into less than 28 by 11 pages. But I found great joy in that parameter. I think what's happening for me is I'm being asked to narrow and go deep and trust it. And that is a challenge for someone, many of you know this, is an incredible networker, can meet and many, many people, cast many, many seeds. For me to just go deep and bring up what I have has been so life-giving and incredibly challenging. Thanks.
Thanks, Jenny. Yeah, thank you. What about you, Sarah? Have there been any elements that are challenging in this process?
Yeah, there's, it's interesting because when I think about challenge, right, the kind of that process of slowing down is both a blessing and a curse, right? So it's both the mistakes happen, but they happen a lot. But actually that's a big part of the whole process. So I think more than anything, there's two things that are popping up. One that feels a little vulnerable, being that to claim role of artist and designer, and to know that that's a role that I've often kind of put aside in my life. It's interesting hearing even the bio that you gave, Carolyn, for me. And art was always something I did on the side. So to have it be my day in and day out has been both the greatest challenge and greatest gift, right? To really claim that and to live it and to be part of the process it's been a challenge just to sit in that seat. And I love it. So, and I think that the whole process itself, in terms of, I would have never anticipated how long it would take to go through a whole process either, but to actually stick with it day in and day out, and to know that we're coming away with this beautiful handmade book that has been made with such care and time, has been also a really, just like to stick with it day in and day out, and both a challenge and a blessing, because I love it. And but it's not easy to stay focused like that for that long. So that's where I'm grateful for all the reminders, but also a process that I actually really enjoy and love learning while I'm doing it. So it's been worth the challenge for sure.
I really appreciate how both of you respond, to challenge as welcoming it, right? I mean, I feel like that is a part of our spring house culture too, and recognizing that um, difficulty is an opportunity to grow, right? To stretch and learn about ourselves, especially, right? So I really appreciate just the sincerity in which you're approaching what is hard. Yeah. Um, I'm curious what is inspiring or motivating you to keep going. And maybe Sarah, maybe you start with this one because I know we've got, I'm going to just say that we're at like just under 100 books that have been pre-ordered, which is amazing. And a lot that will be shipped out in June. And production's still going on. So like how are you persevering right now? Like what's keeping you going? Sarah, we'll start with you.
Okay. Multiple things. I've gotten a little obsessed with letterpress, and I think that I love it. When I'm not at the shop, I miss it. And so there's that, which just makes it easeful, right? It's something I enjoy doing. I think I was there till 10 last night, just finishing up the title page, and just something in it, time disappears. So that's kind of just easefulness in the process. But really, I think that this is just the start, which is amazing, right? Like this is just our first book. This is just the first 100 that we are probably going to be printing many more of with Jenny's book and others, and posters and cards to leave around. And I think what keeps me inspired is, Source Press is not just kind of a print shop. It's actually a place where we can share the message that life is a gift, and that it's radical to do so, right? To do that in a way, in a method that is old and slow. It's culture changing. And I can't wait to think about the teens coming in and learning the process, and the frustration that might arise as they're typesetting each little piece of font, and as I read about the history and how the Gutenberg press brought us out of the dark ages, and what the press really, what it means for culture and for history, that's a huge motivation. All the people who came before who have been doing this. And it's like a real physical embodied process, right? You can feel the ink, the paper, the wood, the metal. It's powerful and simple. So I think that really this is just the beginning of Source Press and what messages we are sharing. And I'm so glad that we chose letterpress and screen printing as our modality to do it, because as I said before, the modality itself speaks to the story within the story. So there's a lot in that, but I'm excited to see what comes, and that keeps me inspired.
Thank you. Love it. What about you, Jenny?
Good question. Like Sarah, a lot of things motivate me. Um,
number one, my calling, and that's in the book. The last principle, source design has 5 principles, and it all depends on our willingness to change. The desire to thrive. If we're going to live in a world where all life thrives, we're going to have to change. We're just going to have to change. And we all have to change in different ways, but to move from the world that we live in to moving to a world where all life thrives, including the earth, obviously. Oh my God. I mean, the change is one day at a time, but it's significant. So when we do change, any of you who have, I'm sure all of you, when you take on a change, try a different habit, you're vulnerable. We're all vulnerable when we do that. So the first principle of the design is to take care of vulnerability. One thing I learned when I decided to change my life and stay sober was I didn't even know this, but I needed to take care of the vulnerability of that change. I needed to find a community and a regular place of practice. And I needed to find mentorship in new practices other than following my boyfriend around and drinking and trying to get everyone to like me. Thank God social media was not a thing. I can't even imagine what would have happened to me then, how many likes I could get and all of that. I needed to find something new and a place to practice and mentorship to help me. That is the first principle. The second one is to cultivate personhood. I learned through many teachers, my own family, friends, community, to take care of my body, to get to know the sacred and to grow my self-awareness. A teacher who I love is Carol Sanford. And she says the one thing that we are least competent in our culture is self-awareness. That would just, and I think a lot of you would agree with that. So to cultivate personhood is critical to get to know who we are. And by the way, person, the Latin means to sound through. Cultivating personhood, like how do we clear the way so that we can have more of who we are sound through into this world? Each one of us is completely unique. There will be no one ever like you before or after. That is a miracle. And to be as fully alive as we can be, oh my God, it's our birthright. Cultivate personhood is the second principle. And then building beloved community. When I could lift my head and look around outside of my own pain and my own little life, I could create the conditions for others to thrive too. And that's been what I've been devoted to since I could lift my head and look around. And then, so that's building beloved community and then learning from the earth. We learn from the earth how to build sustainable examples of thriving culture in place over time. This design is really for people who want to create culture, starting with taking care of their own life. And finally, love and serve others. And I'm finally getting here. Love and serve others is to accept reality, hard. That for me takes a daily practice, and then to follow my calling and to keep going. And what keeps me going is my calling. I feel like a mole these days, like a star-nosed mole, where I'm just like going through the ground. I just can't stop. I'm just going. That's how strong my call is. And really not much is getting in the way of that. So that's the first thing that keeps me going. My community, my relationship with my source, my family, who has supported me from day one in everything I've done. My friends, all of it. It's really the young people. I might cry. They're the faces that I saw when I wrote this book. It's for them. It's for them. And I hope that it helps it's a weird thing to say that this is a design to help you take care of life. It's like, what does that mean? I think there'll come a time where that's needed. And I think it's now, but I'm hoping, I'm looking at Tatiana on this call, who is the only young person who read this book before it went out. It's her face. It's Kai's face. It's Skylar's face. Look at Jasmine and Lizzie over there. It's not that it's not for everybody, because it is. But I really, really want to leave. I wrote it for teenagers, and they inspire me. They are amazing. I mean, I just had a young person at Springhouse today in the kitchen come to me and say, you know what I realized? That when I do hard things physically, he had just gone for a run. That's part of our thing, physical resiliency. He said, when I go for a run, what I learn to get up that hill, like how I get up that hill, I can take that into other aspects of my life. Like when I'm having a hard time, I feel alone, I can take what I learned on that hill and I can apply it when I'm sitting in my room and I feel scared and alone. This is from someone who is 16 years old. So for me, I have nothing but hope and faith in young people, and they inspire me. Oh my God, they're my teachers. Thanks for the question.
Thank you so much. Well, I'd love to open it up for questions from folks who are here. Are there questions that you have for Jenny or for Sarah? Maybe it's about the content of the book. Jenny is going to read something from the book before we close. But I want to just first open it up. And if someone has a question, you can just unmute and speak up. We'll just give it a minute or two.
Hey, Jenny, this is Paul. Given the length, what was the most difficult thing for you not to include in the book?
God, Paul is like the best question asker I think I've ever known. Thanks for the question. You know what was the hardest thing was I like to tell a lot of stories. I teach through stories. And so in such a short book, I had to really, I wanted to be straightforward because I want it to be usable. I want people to be able to use it to build their own lives and their communities and maybe culture beyond that. So a lot of storytelling. I mean, there's still storytelling in it, but that was the hardest part. I'd go onto this thing, I'd start telling a story and then I'd be a whole page in and I had to delete a lot. Sarah knows I'm constantly deleting. I'd write a whole page, think it was done and delete it. It was also, I think that was the hardest thing. Paul was like, I teach in stories. So I had to be very selective and short in what I chose. Thanks for the question.
This is Betty. My question isn't directly about your book, but this first book. But I'm thinking of last week when you were on your all-school trip and you talked to the students about designing an illustration that represented the principles. And they came up with such fascinating work that it just needs to be like a follow-up, like a teenager's response to this book is this beautiful craftsmanship, this art. So that's kind of exciting to think that you're just like a catalyst for more. So not really a question, but a comment.
Thanks so much, Betty. Oh my gosh, it was so inspiring to see them make all the lino cuts and then the messages and the printing of them on a letterpress tabletop printer. It was incredible. Thank you for bringing them. I know I cannot wait to see what emerges.
Hi, this is Andy. If you could have one special printing press donated to your new endeavor, what would it be?
We're probably going to say the same one. I don't know. Maybe it'll be different ones. I really want a Vandercook SP15. It's just, yep, it's a dream. There's a couple other ones, but that would be my first top on the list. And I was going to actually just mention too, if anyone's curious more about the letterpress process and all these different kind of, presses and everything, I just finished watching Pressing On. It's on Amazon, and it goes into detail about all of the kind of different pieces of letterpress. So if you have an interest, you can dive in a little bit more there. Jenny, what about you?
Same. Oh my gosh, I was just trying to secure a Vandercook SP15 this afternoon. So if there's anyone watching, because this is going to go out on, all the channels and things, if you're inspired and you want to purchase us a Vandercook SP15, we want one. It's really good for teaching. That's why it's real. And we used it a lot in North Bay. So I want one. Good question, Andy. I can't even believe I know what I'm saying right now. Like 5 months ago, if somebody said Vandercook SP15, I would think they were speaking another language. So it's kind of amazing that we even know what we're talking about right now. Thanks.
I don't know what you're talking about, so I think it's great. Somebody does. And we know it's a desire. Thanks for the question. Leaving some space for any other questions here too.
I've got a question for Sarah. This is Sarah. I'm curious what part of the process, I know the book has many different components and parts. I'm curious what you're most proud of.
Thanks for the question, Sarah. There was something last night, actually there's certain pages in the book that are typeset and printed are an RC and P platen press. And I keep on telling Jenny, like, get ready, we're going to typeset the whole book. And when we talk about typesetting the whole book, I can't tell you how long. I mean, it would be maybe 6 months. Like, it's no small feat, but that's where I feel most alive, is when I can get that ink on paper after typesetting each word and aligning it. And it's a process that I feel really proud of at the end, because I know how long it takes and how much you press it once, there's a little mistake, you start back again, you do it again, and those are the moments where I feel the most proud, because I know how long it took. It's just it feels really satisfying. So I'm excited for you all to see those typeset pages.
Jenny posted in the chat if you all want to see an image of Sarah's work there. Maybe one more question before we close and hear from Jenny.
I have a question for each of you. For Sarah, I'm wondering what you see in your future as an artist and designer. And for Jenny, I'm curious if there's any books that you feel really inspired to write.
Jenny, you want to go first on that one? I know you have quite a few.
I try to hold back because I don't want to stress Sarah out, but there are a lot of books that I have already written that I just need to, because we're only producing chapbooks, so that's, they're smaller books. So the next book that I want to publish would be a collection of letters that I wrote to the Springhouse community over the past 5 years, so that people could really have a better understanding what we're what we're up to. But that won't be the next book that we publish. It'll actually be by somebody else. Thanks for the question.
Thanks, Toddy. I think that in general, what I get excited about is when I think about a author who feels inspired coming and being able to partner with that author to design a book that echoes and amplifies their words. I love that. Makes me super excited, super inspired. So that's really because then my art and design, it has like purpose and meaning. It's not just, not saying that I don't love carving cats. I can make a good lino cut cat, but it's more of saying I am amplifying and really giving imagery to words that need to be shared. And that inspires me and that gets me excited. So all of these books that are coming down the line, I know they're going to be another opportunity to share something beautiful and something that needs to be shared, including the teens' work. As you can see that image, we're going to be sending out all of their work too. So it's exciting.
Amazing. Great. Well, I'm going to ask for Jenny Finn to read a selection from this book to close our time together, if you will, please.
Thank you so much. And thanks again to all who are here and all who will watch this. I'm very grateful that you're taking the time to be with us. I'm going to read from the chapter called A Word on Change. A tree changes through the seasons. A caterpillar turns into a butterfly. We change throughout our lives. Life constantly shapes and transforms things. Life is eternal and forever changing. No matter how hard we try, we will never be able to control life. There are limits to our power, and it is important to know the difference between what we can change and what we cannot. If we are to live in a world where all life thrives, our only choice is to surrender to the power of life. Death is the greatest unknown we face, life's ultimate transformation. When I faced death, I confronted change in a way I hadn't before. I can remember laying in the recovery room after my surgery, thinking a very strange thought. I may never go to the grocery store again. To consider never doing such an ordinary thing again was a big wake-up call. Having cancer reminded me of how vulnerable I actually am as a human being. The truth is, vulnerability is our constant state. This is easy to forget in a culture that tries to control and avoid vulnerability. This strategy is leading us nowhere. A different approach is needed in how we relate with life. Source Design names these three things as a start. Welcome change, come alive, trust life. Accepting change as constant is the first step. Even if that fact scares us, there's nothing we can do to change it. When we accept this, we realize that we are not here to stay the same. We come to know that change is natural and that we are meant to more fully inhabit our lives. When we choose to come alive, we begin to feel more of our feelings, including the uncomfortable feelings we learned to avoid. When I woke up to my life, it did not always feel good. But after I experienced what a gift my life was, I never wanted that aliveness to go away. Thanks, everybody, for listening. It's a true blessing to be here with you. And thanks for facilitating, Carolyn. Really lovely to have that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would love to just offer, I know it's just now 8 o'clock, but I invite those who are here and who have heard Sarah and Jenny's just experience of bringing this book to life and creation. I invite you to just offer a word of blessing in the chat to them. Just maybe it's just a word of gratitude for their gifts and how it is showing up, and it's just to know that we're here and we're so grateful for the magic that they're creating and bringing into the world that we will have in our hands soon. Hope, courage, inspired, faith, magic, purpose, true, trust, inspiration, deeply moved, perseverance, candlelight, thriving, precious, catalyst. Thank you all, and we wish you a lovely evening, and you'll be hearing from us soon. And I'm going to pop in the chat the link to the page to buy the book. If I think most of you have already, but spread the word. Thank you all. Blessings.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Really grateful that you're here. Have a beautiful night.
Thank you. Thank you.